Well, good morning. A couple things on tap today. I'm going to go get the motor home, install a piece of equipment that's going to help us establish level in the motorhome pretty quickly. It's called the Level Mate Pro right here. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. Should be a pretty easy install, 30 minutes or so. Back in the motorhome, one of the things that you need to do to install this Level Mate Pro is to establish level. That's your basically your baseline level prior to installing this, because this is going to read that baseline level measurement, and then from there on it will let you know whether or not your rig is actually level no matter where you go, and how far you have to raise it on either side, front to back, so on and so forth. So one of the things that I thought I would try is to use the iPad or the iPhone level on here, and let me find it. So there's a little cool little feature on here called level, and as you put this down, as you can see, it will tell you that you're horizontal or vertical, which is kind of cool. And then if you lay it flat, it will also establish your baseline level in the rig. So when I do that, it's actually pretty close, if you can see. It's minus 1%, meaning it's just a tad bit low in the front end. You know, for these purposes, probably pretty good. I think I'm probably just going to go with that, and at least, you know, install this just temporarily, download the app, and see what happens. On the way home from the RV storage lot, I decided to pull into a church parking lot that's in our neighborhood. Pretty big parking lot, pretty flat, so I thought this would be a great place to install the Level Mate Pro, since it should be fairly level. So once again, I took out my handy iPhone, did a quick check on level. Perfectly level, at least within acceptable range. So I'm actually good with that. I'll go through the process of setting up the Level Mate, and hopefully it's going to turn out just fine. All right, so I have the Level Mate Pro and all the equipment you're going to need to install this. It's pretty simple. You only need a few things. Obviously the Level Mate Pro, a tape measure, a couple of screws to affix the Level Mate Pro to a sidewall, screwdriver to open up the Level Mate Pro and put the battery in, and a drill driver to kind of help that process along. I already took measurements of the tires, so what it has you do is take the measurements of the tires in the rear to determine that width. Mine happens to be 96 inches. And also the wheelbase from center to center of each axle, which happens to be, in my case, 229 inches, if I'm not mistaken. So I already made those measurements. I'm not going to go through that process. It's pretty self-explanatory and simple to do. So we'll just get into the assembly and installation. First comes with the Level Mate Pro user manual. So the first thing it has you do is open this up. Contrary to popular belief, I do read instructions from time to time, and I may get a bad rap for that. The older I get, the more I find it's necessary to read instructions. As all it takes is one time to miss an instruction, and you kind of have to go back and do everything all over again. Been there, done that many times. Alright, so it says to remove the top 4 screws, which I've done that. So inside you have a couple of extra screws. If you want to use those, that's perfectly fine. To affix the unit to the wall, and then a battery, which is a CR2032. It says remove the battery, install it the plus side up. So this would be the plus side up. That would be the negative side, which is sort of shiny. Well, both sides are shiny. One has a plus side and one doesn't, so obviously this is the plus side. So that gets snapped right into there, just like so. And it says to reinstall the top cover. And you also want to make note that inside, so that you don't get this turned around and have it installed incorrectly, the arrows have to go the same direction as the arrow here. If you can see that, there's an arrow pointing up. So the cover, when that's reinstalled, has to go in the same direction. All right, all 4 screws back in. So slide the on-off switch to the on position. So here's the on-off switch on the bottom, a little obscure. This is a new model, version 2. Actually has an on-off switch. The prior version did not, which ended up draining the battery and became pretty useless pretty quickly, as I understand. All right, so this is turned on. Got a beep indicating that it's on. Now it's telling me to go to the App Store and download the app. Now I've already done that. LevelMate Pro, Blue Logic, up it comes, and it's going to connect automatically, at least it should. Set configuration. Okay. So what it's going to tell me to do is basically set my orientation. So what I want to do is select where I'm going to have this installed and some other parameters. So in my case, what I'm going to do is install label faces the driver's side, because I'm going to install that on the passenger side, so the label is facing the driver's side. I want to use inches, or you can use centimeters if you're in a European country or Canada, and then it'll ask you to choose watt type. In our case, ours is drivable. So I save that. Set configuration length. Okay. So my inches for the width on the back tires is already set at 96 inches conveniently. And to double check here, my inches for my rear is 229. So I'll set 229 and save. All right. So now it's telling me to set the LevelMate Pro, or install the LevelMate Pro rather. So we'll go do that. I'll change camera position and show you where I'm going to install that. This is the cabinet that I'm going to install the LevelMate Pro in. It's on the passenger side, just inside of the front door. So there's a pretty decent space. The instructions say, if at all possible, mount it parallel to a parallel wall. So in this case, I'm going to mount it back here, kind of up front, up high, to kind of keep other things from hitting it and bumping it. As luck would have it, there's some structure back here. It's the sidewall, so it's probably reinforced fiberglass, but I really don't want to drill into it. I've already made a mark there and kind of don't want to go down that road. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to install this with a couple small pieces of 3M VHB tape. VHB tape, super strong stuff. In fact, I have all of my solar panels adhered to my roof with this, much larger pieces, of course. So once this is pressed in place, yeah, this is not going to be going anywhere. So this is how I'm going to mount it, and it should work just fine. Yeah, that's super secure and not going anywhere, so I don't have any issues leaving that there in place. If something were to happen, obviously I'd be able to tell. The leveling app would tell me that something's amiss, so I can always go back and check that. But I don't suspect anything will ever happen to that. It'll be there until probably long after this thing decides to rot away. So I think I'd mentioned earlier there are a number of settings that you'll have to set according to your particular situation. And in my case, again, my tire width from side to side in the rear is 96 inches. My wheelbase is 229 inches. So you just enter those numbers in there. Pretty self-explanatory. And then also how you have the system or the device attached, and where you have it attached will depend on which of these you select. And of course, inches or centimeters, your choice. And then whether you have a travel trailer, fifth wheel, or drivable. In our case, it's drivable. So that's what I have selected. And then number of hours before the system goes to sleep is the default of 1 hour. And then the measurement resolution is 1/4 of an inch. That's also default. And of course, we drive on the right side. That's default. And that's really pretty much it. Once you have this set up, you just save it, and you go out, do your thing, and turn the system on when you're pulling into a spot, and it's going to give you all the information you need to get level pretty quickly. Okay, so I left the church parking lot and drove the motorhome back to the house and parked it in front of the house on the side of the road. You can see pretty clearly that the LevelMate Pro is picking up how unlevel the vehicle is. And it's telling us that, at least on the front, the left side needs about a ½ an inch of rise. The right side needs 3 1/4, and the back rear needs 2 3/4. So what this does for you is really makes it much easier when you go out and boondock like we do, and you pull into a spot and you can establish pretty quickly what you're going to need to get yourself level, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out. So I think that's pretty cool. Again, the setup was pretty easy. Really didn't have any issues. The system connected like it was supposed to, set up very quickly, and I'm pretty happy with it. Well, that wraps up the installation of the LevelMate Pro. I think well worth the $125 I spent, and certainly, when you're out boondocking and you need to find some place level pretty quickly, that will certainly help. I think we'll save a lot of arguments and problems in the marriage as well. So until next time, like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, comments on any particular part of the installation, or if something wasn't clear, by all means reach out, and I'll be happy to help you out with that. See you soon. One of the things I forgot to mention is that I'm going to be doing a bunch of sort of digital short videos going over all of the upgrades and improvements I made to our coach. We have a 2008 Winnebago on the F53, the Ford F53 chassis. And for those of you who have that particular chassis, know until recent years, the drivability has been probably pretty bad, according to most people. So one of the things that I did is I went through basically the entire suspension system, put on all new upgrades in terms of equipment to improve drivability incredibly. And a lot of people talk about white knuckle driving with the F53. In our case, all the improvements I've made have really increased the drivability immensely, and it's actually fun to drive now. Still get a little sway back and forth with semis passing, not anything like it was before. Anyway, upcoming videos, so stay tuned and be looking for those.
If you liked our video, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe.